Hi, hello everyone. Um, Thank you for being here. You could have been somewhere else, but thank you so much. And thank you to the Sewanee Writers Conference for having me here. And thank you, my fellows, scholars, contributors, faculty members, and everybody. I'm a little bit nervous. Sorry. So I'm gonna read from my debut collection. So instead of talking about these poems, the poems in this book individually, I'm just going to talk about the book as a whole. So the poems in this book deal with domestic abuse. So I didn't, it wasn't like I didn't go through domestic abuse, but the women around me, while growing up, I witnessed the women around me go through domestic abuse. So this is primarily their story and secondarily mine, because as a child, there was nothing you could do and it was pretty normalized, and, you just saw it. And if it wasn't, done to your mom or your aunt, then you just looked away. So that's why in this book you hear a lot about my mom, my grandmother, because it's primarily their story. So I am writing as a witness. Also the poem is like divided into two major parts. The second part of the collection, rather. The second part of the collection is an extended elegy, so a collection of poems, dedicated to the speaker's mom, who kind of like had her first child at 16, had her last child at 38, and died at 40. So it's more like you just think about it. So yeah, there's not much I'll say to that. Thank you. The first poem is titled Tiredness. Vehicles hoot and honk. The deadlocked traffic jam sputter smoke into the afternoon. Curses and pleas spread on the road like pollution. Afternoon gathers around a Danfor bus. Two men struggle to pull open the door. A man pours his folded fist on a woman like stones. I stand outside the bus looking. My father slaps and slaps my mother with the back of his hands. My mother's lips are broken. Two men hold up my father's hands, his knuckles painted with blood. Mother lies on the ground, tired of rising after every fall. So the next poem from this section is titled To Be My Father. My mother's pulse rang, her hand to her ear, my father's voice, a threatening thunder. My mother rushed all of her hopes into the store and locked the evening with a huge padlock. She held my hand. We boarded a Danfor bus, a hospital, a doctor, two nurses. My mother dropped her paws on my lap, went into a room with them. A doctor, two nurses. They came out and told me to fill their past with my footprints. In the room, my mother on a bed, her eyes shut like that, her lower lip held between her teeth, a peg holding a shirt. Blood trickled like tears from her skirt, ran across her legs. I was 10, but I knew what it took to be my father was to cause a woman's pain. So I'm going to read two poems from the extended elegy from this section. So this is titled Before the Elegies. It was the last time I stepped into your bedroom. I remember. You could hardly complete the name you gave me, but I moved closer to the thin frame of sheets on your bed. I should have known what loomed. After all, your legs had run out of muscles for a week now. Stupid me. I thought miracles cost nothing. I pulled off the sheet, the day's legacy all over your thigh. On your bed, a map of orange-red odor. Bathroom, you said. How easily the body betrays the mind. 2 weeks ago, it was you alone, hacking down grasses that invaded the backyard. Clutching a cutlass, then a hoe, cutlass, hoe, cutlass. You had never waited on anyone until this week, this day. As a good son, I put you in my arms, light as a shard of glass. My mouth, a cannon of promises. I swore you wouldn't be by yourself again. I shut the door to the bathroom once I had let you sit. Soap on your head, I began to wash away my guilt. So this is titled Mother Again. So this is after, that was before, the day before that. This is after, immediately the day after. The bus drives me into nostalgia. The window, the clouds gathering around the sky. Evening dies slowly. Lagos, lost in dusk huge frame. The bus parks halogen lamps lighting the nights. At the junction where I planted you for the last time on my back, mother, I sell my body for a vase of flour, for a bottle of nail polish. Apply the road to the deteriorating wall of your grave, where I inscribe the debt I owe you with a brush drenched with nail polish. I set a vase upon your concrete breast. So I'm going to read 2 points from this first part of the book. So it's funny because, I felt like, the poems were kind of like the collection. When I was writing them, I felt like the poems were too sad. So I wanted to write something happy, Like I was like, yeah, I'm going to force something. I'm going to write something happy. But, yeah. So I was like, okay, just going to write something happy. But I don't know, I still ended up writing a sad poem. Because it's hard, when you have an agenda, right? Because you want to write something, but at the end of the day, it still ends up taking over you. So, so this is titled Love, and it's a ghazal. There's something else I didn't say. So English is my third language. Yeah, and that's what I write in. Because, when we studied in high school and all that, we read English text and all that. So, but Yoruba is my first language. So sometimes, and because I'm from a place where most of the people that I know, because English, like as I was saying to someone, English is the language of the elites in Nigeria. You have to have a certain amount of money to go to school that teach English. But I'm not from that part of Nigeria. So I'm from a place where most of us, we speak Yoruba. So I code switch a lot. I infuse Yoruba just as a way of holding on to my people. It's how I feel. So this poem has a lot of Yoruba words, which I will read. And I didn't italicize because I don't believe that Yoruba is inferior to English. So nah. And I don't feel sorry about that. Love. So this is titled Love. Sheori. And it's in the voice of a grandmother. Sheori, this is how your grandfather and I loved. Nibata Sewanee Shango Ode, so much in love. In his rickety inheritance, from home we drove to Bar Beach every evening, where we either made love or watched a liquid god rise and fall in a salted glory. Each time there were those who seemed to be learning if love was a type of animal that deserved this much attention. They turned their faces to the gray-suited sky, asking, "Dear love, are you for real? Or just something someone somewhere gave a face to?" Back to those of us who believed in this animal called love. Dammy, we were about your age, clenching the beach in our palms, young enough to believe those sands were tiny children of love. So I'm gonna read the title poem, which is short. Yeah, I don't know. I wrote that down, page 10. So one other tiny story. So when the first time I read from this book, someone said, "Hey, can you please read the title poem?" So I read the poem I just finished reading. I thought it was the title poem. For some reason, I forgot it wasn't the title poem because I was so nervous. So I read it, and then I forgot. And, nobody said anything. And I didn't even know it wasn't the title poem. Then one of my friends, like when we finished reading, was like, "Did you just read the title poem?" I didn't. That wasn't the title poem. I'm like, "Oh, true." So that was a fake title poem. This is the original title poem. So this is the original title poem. Start with the beginning. And it also has a lot of Yoruba phrases, words, and all that. Omo mi onwo. This is how the hand first showed. When he woke up that Wednesday morning, his teeth were not the light bulb we had come to know. Okrika shorts were all he was wearing when he rode his motorcycle beyond my highest corner. Nothing could stop him, not even our 1-month-old daughter. Nothing could stop him, not even our 1-month-old daughter, when he rode his motorcycle beyond my highest corner. Okrika shorts were all he was wearing. His teeth were not the light bulb we had come to know when he woke up that Wednesday morning. Omo mi onwo. This was how the hand first showed. So I'm going to read one new poem. And then, so thank you again, everyone, for being here. And yeah, I think I got over got better. Yes, so yeah, don't judge me yet. I'm not, I'm just going to read this poem and probably it's a work in progress, but I'm going to read it anyways. This is titled Prayer. Because the morning was a bastard, the woman I loved stuffed our future in a trash bag and locked the door. Because I had no scar to show for my wound, I fell on my knees, begging the past to return. She returned and fell on her knees. The doctor says it won't survive, she said, putting my hands on her stomach. Days later, from one of the corridors of heaven, I watched her rock a child, excitement running across the child's face. For a moment, I forgot it wasn't hers, ours. The mother came, took him away. Again, I was reminded that there is no bond stronger than that which joy and sorrow share. Dear God, when next you pass through me, pass as a complete story. Thank you. Please welcome Jon Tribble. I'm sorry.
It is a real pleasure to be here. I was supposed to come last year as a fellow, and I couldn't because of health issues. So I'm going to begin my reading a poem from the book that was the reason I got a fellowship last year. And then I'll continue with my newest collection. This is a very special poem to me. It's dedicated to my wife, Alice and Joseph, and it is a poem that is inspired by the single note of a song that is performed by the great jazz singer Sarah Vaughan. And the title of the poem is one of her nicknames, The Divine. So, I cannot sing but I can listen. The voice of notes reaching and stretching, testing the muscles of what sound can be, should be, if we were only ear, only hearing, clear and transcending the clamor of city streets' rough, malodorous push and shove, the traffic of life's be there, should have been, yesterday, tomorrow morning. But if the night were the warmest cave, the primal blanket to layer and comfort our tired feet, to feel a flame of shadow and light together, then pure, yes, pure tone would be the echo and resonance, the never-ending claim to live in the lasting growl and coo of her voice as my funny Valentine fades and never disappears, as the final note possesses Sarah Vaughan, possesses us, documents the sound we should define as pain, as regret, as love and loss, as human. So this is a very odd book, my third book, God of the Kitchen. You can see it features on the cover a picture, a painting of me at around 15 with a giant chicken standing behind me, because this book is entirely about the years I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken. And they were quite an experience. So I'm going to begin with a poem that comes out of that experience, titled Wishbone. A handshake with pain, under the palm's fleshy bunker, sandbagging muscle and nerve, below the soft knot, swollen with heat, in a hot summer of breading and frying and breading, and so much soapy water in sinks and buckets that the spongy, wrinkled skin, like the dead bird's skin, feels right, feeling wrong. And so it's only when your hand begins to look like a blued fillet, scars marking sears from grease and flame, and your fingers have fattened like plumping franks on the end of a campfire skewer. You begin rubbing the delta of the thumb and index finger, the nexus of the pain you have ignored for a week and a half at most, and you feel a thin bone where there is no bone of yours at least. A needle stitching its way inside the tight knitting of your muscle and blood, and you keep massaging its line of nerve fire until you find the tender point of this inch-long splinter, and against the tongue-biting, ear-searing scream of each measure of renewed press and push, a point finally breaks back out of what you imagined was your closed skin, an old wound, open, you thought nothing more than a scratch, when a chicken bone from the keel, the center breast, cut from beneath the bird's tender rib cage, knifed so quietly inside, carving within the pocket hiding under your thumb, until infection protested this invasion, burning out what never belonged in. And you slowly pull on the end, hoping it will all hold together. And through the pus and blood, it does. And when you wash it clean, your hand cleansed over and over in steamy lather and soaking in a bowl full of alcohol until all the heat is gone, you realize you hold in your other hand the short end of a wishbone, a failure, like so many you don't see yet ahead. Now only a curiosity and caution that won't slow you down soon enough. So one of the things that actually I wrote about before I knew I was writing this book was an activity that we did endlessly at Kentucky Fried Chicken. That it was a strange activity where you took cases of the cold chicken and you broke the thighs. And you did this over and over. I probably did this for, easily thousands of chickens. So I wrote this poem because it was so ingrained in me that it became a sort of sense memory. It's called Breaking Bird. You break the thighs, that's all. A quick snap like you imagine any bone forced from the joint it's bedded in might give, to pull and twist and pop. The raw meat under your fingers, cool to the touch, like water in the shade of a cliff face that never feels the sun, like moss on the underside of a deadfall off a quiet path. The skin thick, like the tongue of a work boot, nothing like anything once alive should feel, sliding and sucking in the tightening grip of your thumb. But that is last. First, there is the tail. Nub of useless stump that feathered the fat and bony end of these inept flyers. And you crank it once, twice, mostly never 3 times, till it gives way in your pinch and you toss it off into the growing pile in the trash, where these tips of skin and bone collect, each looking like the first joint of a fleshy thumb that's lost its nail. Naked now, unable to grasp even the smallest thing. So the one other poem I'm going to read from this, I'm actually going to see which way you'd prefer me to go, because I have a poem that is about the worst injury I sustained working at Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I have a poem about the worst injury I saw someone have at Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I want to see which way you preferred to go, whether it's hurt me or hurt someone else. Hurt someone else? I think that'll be interesting. You've already heard me hurt me. So, since I read Wishbone, this really was the worst thing I ever saw, and hopefully the worst injury I will ever see. It's called Ball and Pivot. Jerry looked better than any hog-faced man should. a Porky Pig grin always on his face, happy to meet us each time he came around to fix what had broken. He knew torque and the mechanics of heat that kept our kitchens working. The assistant to the ex-merchant marine who was the high priest to the mysteries Jerry studied. These two heavy men ministered across the Central Arkansas chicken franchise empire, putting us all back to work when again and again a pressure valve blew and rained scorching grease across the exhaust fans and ceiling, when choking smoke or bubbling sewage stench filled the kitchen's air and drove us out, when what was cold was too hot, or what demanded heat was too cold. Their gruff, grunting bitching called forth whatever metal secrets they both knew, and we were fully ignorant of, and they healed the sad, sick store so we could return to our yoke of business. But Jerry needed more than his assistant's salary provided. A wedding and honeymoon approaching, so he joined me on Friday and Saturday nights, some extra hours for him helping me cook and clean. I met his fiancée, a perfect petunia to his Porky, and his smile grew ever brighter, reflecting hers. So I minded much less after meeting her that he was paid 3 times what I made for following my lead. His maintenance rate, $11 an hour, while I saw only $3.50 at my best pay. He hated washing dishes, the trays and wire racks plastered with dried flour or slick with an evening's layer of grease. So I took the sink while he sprayed the red brick tile with the steam hose, pushing below him all the grime and soapy bleach water toward the drain mouths at the back of the store. He yelled out to me, something I don't remember, and I turned to see him spill forward, his left knee leading the full weight of his body to the floor, and the point exploded with a shotgun blast. The knee shattered and his screams following as he rolled over in a heap of tears and pain. I called out for help, and the 2 girls working that night and the assistant manager came running as I took every clean towel I could find, piled most of them under the head as a pillow, and then began gently wrapping the others around his blood-soaked jeans, where I could feel the sharp points of bone trying to poke through the fabric. No matter how we pleaded, we couldn't convince the panicked assistant manager to call for an ambulance. So he pulled his truck to the back of the store, and the 2 of us lifted Jerry up, carried him to the bed of the truck where the girls had spread clean aprons and towels to make a soft pallet for Jerry to lie on. One of the girls got in the back with Jerry, and the assistant manager drove them all to the nearest hospital, leaving the other girl and me with the keys to the store so we could finish closing, so I could wash Jerry's blood down the waiting drain. Thank you.